Life's going to suck. It's going to smack you in the face. But if you can move through that and then come back down and look back and be like, hey, I made it through that. You're building new evidence for your brain that you can do hard things. And that's what we can do for dogs too. And so it applies both ways. And so, yeah.
That's pretty profound.
Is that pretty profound?
It is. That's cool.
Yeah.
So it, to me, that is like confidence building.
It is.
Because I just never connected it with like the nervous system in particular. So we have obviously lots of dogs here. So yeah, we always just tell and it kind of depends on the week too, because we tell our staff like, hey, you know, we're having a podcast, so we call it bark control. So I said, just do the best you can. So for like the next hour and a half, and we got a beagle right now.
Oh, beagles are very vocal.
So they're like, well, we'll try.
We'll try, yeah.
So anyway, Rose, thanks for hopping on the pod.
Yeah.
Why don't you introduce yourself to people who are listening and watching?
Yeah, so I am a psychosomatic practitioner for humans and a canine educator, teaching people essentially the intersection of nervous system regulation for canines and both humans together. I like to kind of tell people we're teaching both ends of the leash. We actually have an upcoming course about that. But really just giving people the tools for themselves and for their dogs to help them move through, you know, stress and be able to come back down and regulate and overall create more resilient dogs and people at the same time. So
start with the.
Yeah, I know there's a lot. That was a lot there.
Let's back up. Start with the first thing you said.
Yeah, psychosomatic practitioner.
What is that?
Yeah, great question. That is a mouthful. So a psychosomatic practitioner, essentially, I am trained to. Yeah, right there. Perfect.
Yeah.
Do you want me to start back over?
No, I don't. You're good.
Okay.
I just don't want this. I don't want that to block your face.
Yeah. No, perfect. Thanks. Essentially, I'm trained in helping people do like somatic techniques on humans, whether people that have experienced like trauma before or people that have different mental health conditions, essentially help those people work through stressful moments and essentially help them regulate. And I know a lot of these terms, they're being thrown out now. You hear these all over social media, regulate, somatics, and I can more than happy to break any of that down. But I was originally trained in helping people. And then one day I looked at my dogs and I was like, gosh, no one's doing this for dogs. There's not really a language for nervous systems applying to canines and how we can help them in this lens. And so that's really what I became obsessed with, is looking at, you know, what's underneath the behavior, the nervous system. And so.
How long did you do that with people?
Yeah, so I worked with people for only a year. And I actually got really sick during that period. I had late stage Lyme disease, and during that point in time, I had to stop working with people because I was just so sick. I was in bed. I'd started to lose feeling in my legs. It was a pretty rough season. I didn't know. There wasn't a lot of hope. The doctors were like, there's not much we can really do. And so it was kind of a death sentence, it felt like. And so I started looking into really the human nervous system. And as I started looking into the human nervous system, I realized, gosh, my body had been bracing for years. I had a lot of traumatic health things that had happened in my past. And so when I started to address my nervous system and do some of these techniques and apply somatics, I actually started to get better. And I'm in full remission now. And during that process is when I looked at my dogs and I was like, gosh, you know, if this stuff's working on me, what would it be like if I actually tried this on my dogs? And so I just started devoting time to working with them and doing these techniques. And then I started to see results and I started putting that out there and it blew up. Turns out people really wanted to know more about what we were doing. So.
Wow.
Yeah, it's.
And was the Lyme from a tick? Do you know, or?
So a lot of people think that Lyme disease comes straight from ticks. Honestly, I never had like a bullseye rash, any of that stuff. I lived in Iowa and, you know, there's ticks everywhere there. You know, my doctor seems to think that, I mean, it could have been a tick, could have been a mosquito. I mean, there's different ways that it can be transmitted, but I had it probably for 6 years, didn't know. I'd always kind of been sick off and on. And then after I had my daughter, had a pretty difficult C-section, and I just started hitting rock bottom. And eventually I was diagnosed with that. And it solved a lot of questions, but it didn't really lead me on the greatest path. I was like, There's not a lot of hope for people that have late stage Lyme disease. There's not a lot they can really do.
Really?
And there's actually a lot of research starting to come out where they've realized that some of these people that have it, it's actually linked to the nervous system to some extent. And so if you can actually address the nervous system, oftentimes you'll see the symptoms get better. So there's a lot of fascinating correlations that are starting to come out, I feel like, in the world of, medicine and science with the nervous system.
So you started that with humans,
Mhm.
and then was that something that was self-taught, or is that something that you had to,
Yeah.
how did you get into that with humans?
Yeah, so I went online. There was an online academy out on the West Coast. I trained with all these people. We had like weekly Zoom meetings. And so I trained with them for about 8 months. And, we would practice and, do sessions with people around us locally and work on doing those things. And eventually we had like a final exam we had to pass through and coursework and all that stuff. And it's not something it's hard to find, out there. There's a lot of different certification pathways for somatics that are now up and coming, but finding one that's credible and actually teaches you things about the nervous system that are accurate is kind of hard to find. So it's a very niche thing, but I feel like we're hearing the word more. I don't know if you've heard the word somatics. Is this the first time you've heard?
I've heard it,
Mm-hmm.
but to me it just is usually like a woo-woo term,
Yes.
like
Mm-hmm.
very
Exactly.
witch doctor.
Yeah, witch doctor. No, that's what people. I mean, the actual word somatic derives from the Greek word soma, which is the body from within. So I always tell people, a lot of people think somatics is the techniques. It's actually like the lens of examining the body like from within, like the neurobiology, the physiology of how the body's experienced from inside, aka the nervous system.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of a way I like to put it. And we tell people a lot of our work, it's based in science because so many people, like you said, they go the whole other side. And I've been out there trying to really prove the actual data, the numbers of how this actually works within us and dogs. And so, yeah.
So were your dogs having issues, or were you just like, I want to learn more about my dogs and somatics, or how did you, when you looked at your dog and you said, okay, like
Yeah.
this is fascinating.
Mhm.
Was there something going on with your dog at the time?
So being fully transparent, we have a golden retriever and then we have a Staffordshire terrier. And the golden retriever, her name's Bree. She's always been kind of anxious. She got a lot more anxious when I was sick. I noticed that, and I think there was probably definitely a correlation. I mean, dogs can pick up on those things. Um, and so Tyson, our other dog, nothing really had changed too much with him. He's struggled with a lot of reactivity in his lifetime, something we've had to work through. But I really wanted to just see, can this actually change, like Bree's behavior, like her being so overwhelmed at times. I mean, she was a very hypervigilant dog. She's gotten better at that. And I noticed, and people, even our family noticed, like after doing this consistently for months, that she's less jumpy, she's less hyper, she can come down faster.
Mm.
And so we even have like pet pace collars. We partnered with them, and these collars pull off like her heart rate, her O2 levels, all these different, like HRV even, these pieces of data that would actually trend upward over time, showing us that what we were doing was actually affecting her physiology, which is fascinating because then it was like, wow, this is actually working. This isn't some, like you said, woo-woo witch doctor thing. And so that's why I wanted to show people is like, there's actual science like here behind this.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm cool with witch doctor woos.
No, no, we'll say.
Like, I'm cool with that. I think I think the more like almost holistic and witch doctor you can get, because we've
trended a lot that way.
Yeah, and I feel like we're going so, like I saw conventional but also commercial.
Yeah.
Where it's like we're trying to just everybody's trying to make a buck off something. I had one of my friends on, Angela, and she was just like, she uses mushrooms and CBD for everything, and it was just, I started using it for my own dogs, and I was like,
wow,
noticing a big difference. And
change.
And I take lion's mane and I take all that stuff every day.
Lion's mane.
So
I popped some before I came in here. I was like, that there's so many benefits.
Yeah, so I'm cool with that. So when you say that you started on your dog, what are the things that you started to do?
Yeah. So really what I started doing with my dog was kind of what I was doing with myself. And so like I said, the word somatics is kind of an umbrella term. It can be hands-on regulation techniques where you actually put your hand on yourself or your dog. Sometimes it's breath work. Sometimes it's presence, just sitting there or sitting beside your dog. I started out with like putting my hands on my dogs and making sure, first of all, they wanted to be touched. That's one thing I teach people is consent with dogs. You know, don't go force yourself putting your hands on a dog that doesn't want to be touched. That won't end well.
Is that
Um,
your dog and other people's dog, or?
yeah, so I started with my dogs first because I was like, I need to make sure that this works, and I'm going to start with my dogs. And so I started doing like these 10-minute sessions a day with my dogs. And I just go sit on the floor, and my dogs would come up to me. And if they, like, you know, kind of came and approached me, I'd stick my hand out. And if they stayed in my space, kind of leaned in, if their body stayed loose, I'd start kind of doing some of these techniques. There's about anywhere from 12 to 15 techniques that I teach people like in my courses. One of the most basic ones is like a chest anchor hold where you just simply just put your hand on your dog's chest. You just hold it and you focus on your breathing and just honestly just your presence, because one of the biggest things at the end of the day, and I'm sure you can attest to it, is that if you're more calm, the dog's going to pick up on that. And so that's one of the main techniques I started with. And then I started doing like ear slides where I would take my fingers like at the top of a dog's ear and just run my fingers down. There's a nerve, maybe you're familiar, the vagus nerve,
Mhm.
one of the largest nerves in the human body and a dog's body that is connected to the central nervous system. And a lot of people kind of call that the nerve that helps you calm the body down. And so by touching the ears, there's a lot of nerves that connect to that vagus nerve there. So oftentimes when I would do that, I would see my dogs like yawn or lick their lips. And these were signs within context of other things that I could tell that their body, their nervous system was processing that touch, that input.
Hmm.
And it was, like I said, in context is kind of the really important clue, because a lot of people, I'm sure in the dog world, you see people that are like, oh my gosh, the dog must be stressed. They yawned, they licked their lips. Definitely can be a thing. But I always say, like, the nervous system doesn't speak in words, it speaks in sentences. So the whole context, like, was the rest of the dog's body loose? Were they relaxed, you know? And if they were licking their lips in that context of me touching them and they seemed calm, their physiology appeared to show that, then I make that conclusion that, okay, that was actually something that was healthy. It was not a stress response. So a lot of experimenting with that, using these techniques, watching every single part of their body to see how it moved, you know, if their weight shifted forward. All these clues, which I'm sure you are watching dogs like a hawk all day long. I'm sure you see all the things with their body, how it changes and how that speaks and tells
Mhm.
a story.
Yeah, and what it's connected to.
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk about like the dog yawning and stuff,
Yeah.
those are just like processes in which the dog is not like I talked about that recently about how a dog like a lot of people think like if you watch like a 30-second clip of
Yeah.
anybody's dog and they go, look, it's yawning, you're stressing your dog out, and I'm like,
Yep.
there's so many variables. Like it could be the sirens, it could be a
Yeah.
smell, that it could be another person, it could be a
Yep.
dog. Just because a dog yawns, and not for nothing, a lot of dogs,
Yeah.
especially I work with a lot of behavioral dogs.
Gosh.
So when I get a dog that's already, they come in and they go, Tom, my dog's nervous, anxious,
Yeah.
has been beaten, you know, whatever, and I get the dog and the dog's yawning.
Mm.
Look, I'm like,
You're like,
that's the dog. That's
the dog.
that's the dog.
Yeah, that's
That's who they are.
yeah.
But I think there's many signs of that body language and how dogs present information.
Mhm.
So sometimes that yawn and
Yeah.
that stress signal, if you will, that general stress signal, it could be a good thing too, because the dog is
Yes.
communicating, right?
Yeah, definitely. I actually tell people yawning, it's kind of like a pressure valve in a dog.
Mm.
So when they yawn, it's a release, you know, and so that can be stressful or it can be healthy, you know. Once again, like I tell people, like if your dog is yawning when they look out the window and they see a bike go by with someone on the bike, that's probably in context of their body maybe being tight or rigid. That's probably a stress signal. That yawn's probably a stress yawn. But like if it's late at night and they come sit by you on the couch, rest their head on your lap and yawn and they got a loose body, that's a sign of calm right there. And it's like that pressure just being released. So it can be good or bad if that makes sense.
No, it does. I mean, like you said, it's context.
Yeah. Yeah. Context.
I've been saying that for years. Like context is king,
It is.
especially in dog training, because you see, like,
Yeah.
again, I've had many situations where dogs have come in and the owners have been like, hey,
Mhm.
say it's Wednesday and they're like, this Saturday we have an appointment to euthanize this dog. Excuse me. And we don't know what to do, that you're our last hope. And, we have to work with the dog that we have and the tools that we have to use to save the dog's life. And especially in dog training, you have this very like polarizing thing, especially with context. That's why I love podcasting, is because it gives you an opportunity to really get to know somebody instead of just seeing like a 30-second clip of somebody and not having context. And I think all humans are guilty of making judgments off that. But so when you are doing can you just I don't want to say define Somatics, but there's it's connected to the nervous system specifically, or is there other connections within the body? Is it connected to respiratory, or is it connected to the brain? Like,
gosh,
I don't know if that makes sense.
most simplest way, if I was telling like a 4-year-old.
Tell me, I'm that 4-year-old.
That's how I explain things to myself, because I have a 4-year-old, so I'm always trying to explain things and break it down.
Please.
Literally, somatics is like the art of teaching the body to move through hard things and then be calm afterwards.
Love it.
And so that's about...
see? I'm that 4-year-old. That clicked for me.
That clicked for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? Sometimes we get caught in the weeds of all these terms. And I think, that's why I always, like I said, I want to try to break things down in a way that people can understand and metabolize it. And so that's probably the best way I could put it. Life's going to suck. It's going to smack you in the face. But if you can move through that and then come back down and look back and be like, hey, I made it through that, you're building new evidence for your brain that you can do hard things. And that's what we can do for dogs too. And so it applies both ways. And so,
That's pretty profound.
Is that pretty profound?
It is. That's cool.
Yeah.
So it, to me, that is like confidence building.
It is.
Because I just never connected it with like the nervous system in particular. So this morning I did 2 things.
Oh gosh.
That I didn't necessarily want to do, but I pushed myself through it, which was workout and then cold plunge.
Oh.
And so we talk about, I've been doing a lot of research on cold plunging in general.
Yep.
I follow Dr. Andrew Huberman a lot
I love him.
on how he presents information about cold exposure, basically voluntary discomfort, and how it rewires your brain so you know how to deal with. So the voluntary discomfort, and I'm not Dr. Andrew Huberman, but I'll break it down the way that my 4-year-old brain breaks it down, is if you basically train your brain every day to do something uncomfortable, when you inevitably, when you come apart at some sort of stressful situation in your life, you learn how to deal with that.
Yes.
And your body has been programmed, and your pathways in your nervous system, I don't know, maybe your brain have been programmed to go, hey, you forcibly get into water that's 31.5 degrees. Almost every day. And so you've kind of programmed your brain that when stress hits you in a way, you go, so it's a threshold.
Yep.
So I call it like a stressful threshold.
Yes.
That your body has to, like, even this morning, like I told you, last night we went for a walk. Try to every morning, every night, go for a walk as a family with the dogs and the kids and the stroller and the whole nine. And I just told my wife Taylor, I was like, we've been so crazy for like the last 3 weeks. It's been like the schedules have been nonstop. And then yesterday we just kind of landed a couple deals that we've been working on with our life, and things were like, I said out loud, I was like, now, and I told them, I go, guys, and my kids are 2 and 4 basically. I say, guys, our nervous systems can now relax, because we've just been heightened. And that's what I think travel does too.
Oh gosh.
Like the stress of travel, of Airbnbs, and if you're specifically for us, because we're usually in a different country, it's like time changes and food changes and even water changes, and your exercise and your routines and your nervous system is like trying to regulate. And so I think that over the years of traveling as much as we have and just learning how to cope with that has helped other parts of my life.
Gosh, no. I mean, you make so many really good points there, especially with the cold plunging, which I've done that before, and a lot of respect, because that's it takes some balls to do that.
Yeah, it's
I will say, like, what you're doing essentially is like, in the term, if we want to say the fancy term for it, is like predictive processing. Your nervous system and your dog's, it's always asking this question of what's going to happen next based upon past experiences. And so when you go do things like that, like cold plunging, or you go do something that's difficult and you work through it, you build new evidence for the brain to look back on to predict the current, like the future. Essentially, you're changing the future because then you can walk into things that are hard and your brain's like, well, gosh, I've been in 30-degree water. This is nothing. I can do this. And I think that's where, gosh, one of the biggest things that I wish people knew is that regulation isn't calm. It's not the absence of activation. It's literally being able to move through it and build that evidence, because being human involves, all these wide ranges of emotions and things that we're going to go through. And same for dogs, a perfectly calm dog isn't a dog that just sits there. I'd say a regulated dog is a dog that can go out and play and then come back and be able to, take a nap or whatever. And it just looks different. I think a lot of people are chasing perfection in that realm, and it can be exhausting. And especially like you said, with travel and stuff, our nervous systems crave predictability and familiarity. And so when you're traveling from place to place, there's really not a space to land. And I'm sure like I said, you've been there. It can be exhausting.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why we stopped traveling. One of the reasons.
Yeah.
Because like I was saying before we hit record is we were on the road for almost 4 years. And I remember specifically, and I've told this story before, but specifically, we were on our way home from dinner at home here in Saratoga in New York. And we were on our way home, and my son's like, "Are we going to the Airbnb or are we going home?" Like his predictability, because that was normal to him. Like he got to know the Atlanta Delta Sky Club employees. Like he hit 200 flights by the time he was 3. Like he traveled so much. And I think it's helped with like his resilience, and obviously he's cultured. Like he's got many stamps in his passport, but that was one of the reasons why we were like, okay, we should probably pull back the reins a little bit, because his nervous system, and I think his life was kind of unpredictable. And I don't know. I'd have to talk to somebody who specializes in that, whether that's good or bad. I'm sure it has its pros and cons, but.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can relate. I mean, we got a 4-year-old and we're on the road, and sometimes I'm like, man, having a space to land. And that's where a lot of times having people can become like anchors essentially. So, I mean, like, for example, like for your son and stuff, like, you guys probably are a safe space for him. And so that can be a place where the nervous system can land. And it's all about kind of finding things that help the body feel safe, because that, aside from that question of what happens next, the nervous system, like even in this moment, your nervous system, mine, is asking, am I safe? And that's how we were wired primally to survive. I mean, we had to be taking back every ounce of data from around us. If we were hundreds of years ago back on the prairie, that's how we survived, is by our nervous systems accumulating all this data. And so now we're in a society where, there's a lot of stimulation, and our nervous system is trying to, decode, am I safe? And, you get a text message from someone saying, can we talk? And it activates your nervous system. And it's like, gosh, we weren't wired for for all this stuff. And so.
What's the difference between anxiety and nervous system? Meaning that text. Like that would do the same thing for me. I'd be like, call me right now. I gotta go. I need to know what.
Oh no, for real. Seriously, I get those texts and I instantly like feel my heart start to race, and I'm like, oh gosh.
Does that make sense, that question?
Yeah. So like anxiety in and of itself is something that it's a physiological, symptom from the nervous system. Like the nervous system is the hub. Mm-hmm. That's the hub inside your body that controls, your breathing, your, the way that you move your body. It literally, like your respiration, heart rate, all these different variables. Basically, it's basically keeping you alive in this moment. Your nervous system is connected to your brain. It's sending messages. The best way to put it is like this. So throughout the day, your brain and your body, they're having conversations. Your brain is sending 20% of the messages to your body. Your body sends 80% of the messages to the brain. So the body's the biggest communicator. Your body is essentially telling the brain, I'm safe or I'm not safe. And so anxiety is something then that can stem from that if it doesn't feel safe. That can be manifest whether or not, like you said, if you start to get, a racing heart, or like, gosh, people start shaking. I mean, anxiety can show up in so many different shapes or forms. It's so prevalent now. You hear everyone that's like, gosh, I have anxiety, or, that gives me anxiety. And it's simply a response from a nervous system that's trying to land. And so that distinction, I don't know if that kind of helps. The nervous system is essentially the hub, and from that stems out all these different physiological symptoms that can occur.
So you said that what would you say to a dog owner who said that they didn't need permission, or permission from their dog? Like, I think that's interesting. Like if you told somebody, like, you should ask for consent before you pet your dog. Like, to me, I think people would lose their mind. Like, what would you say if people were like, no, I can pet my dog whenever I want? They'd love it.
Yeah. I think, gosh, from being in this field and watching and studying people touching dogs, and that kind of being really what we focus on, I think there's times of the day, I mean, gosh, I go up and I pet my dogs. I mean, sometimes, who knows? There's probably times where they're like, what's that woman doing? You know? But when it's in the context of me trying to intentionally like help them and do a somatic session with them, I want to respect like their body language. I think it comes down to that. Like, I think owners that do not know canine body language, like, that's where it becomes a problem, because you can actually overwhelm your dog. Like, for example, and I'm sure maybe you've experienced this, the way that you, like, even the pace that you touch your dog, the rhythm of that is important. Like, for example, let's just say you come in the door, your dog greets you, and they're already kind of excited and heightened, and you take your hand and you just start like, hey buddy, how you doing? That right there, that speed, the speed of your hand is gonna send a message to the nervous system, activate, because it's fast. And that, speed speaks to the nervous system. But if you come in and you pet the dog slowly, you can often see a change with how they react, because based upon the speed of how you're touching them. And so, coming back to kind of the topic of consent, looking at the dog in front of you, I always tell people, assess and observe. Like, what nervous system are you looking at today? Is this a nervous system that's activated? Is it a nervous system that's shut down? Is it a nervous system that's calm and regulated? That kind of determines, to me, what the dog needs from us. Because I don't know, I'm curious what your take is. Like, have you seen people that have overused touch on their dog and it's been detrimental? Or, I'm kind of curious with your experience if you've seen it activate dogs further when they're already kind of at threshold.
Yes.
Yeah. He's like, yes, without a doubt.
So one of the biggest reasons why dogs become anxious, fearful, insecure, codependent is too much talk and too much touch.
Yep.
So to your point, it's kind of making sense, right? The dog's nervous system is starting to pick up on, well, the person I care about the most, mom or dad, is touching me because they're nervous, and they're going, it's okay, it's all right, hey, it's okay. And they're touching. And the dog's going, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, exactly.
So then you're kind of firing up the dog's nervous system, and you're getting them all like worked up, and they're at a constant state of what's wrong, what's happening. So then what happens is especially for like more protective breeds, like Corsos or German Shepherds or anything really that's more protective, what ends up happening is the dog goes, well, the person I care about the most is terrified, scared, nervous. They're not showing good signs of leadership. Like, if I came into I have about 16 employees. If I came in all the time and I was terrified and nervous and knew nothing, and I didn't know the answers to anything, and I was not a confident leader, it would be detrimental. And so those are the most reactive, fearful, insecure, dangerous dogs, and they don't want to be. And that's why we created the entire No Bad Dog movement, the No Bad Dog podcast. Like, I see so many owners come in, they go, Tom, my dog's this. And I go, because of you. So we need to work on you. And I tell people all the time, I'm not in the dog business. I'm in the people business.
Oh, yeah.
Dogs are super easy, like very, very easy, right? So I see that a lot. And unfortunately, it's so detrimental to dogs that majority of dogs who get put in the shelters are because owners bring them in to their home, and they touch them and they grab them and they squeeze them and they talk to them, and they're just constantly, and the dog is like, A, I don't know what you're saying. what you mean, because these are things I've never been taught. So when we teach dogs cues or behaviors, sit, we use positive reinforcement over time to teach a dog what a behavior is. Place, down, recall, leave it. It's predictable. They go, I know what this means. So if they get corrected for it, they get punished for it, they go, oh, that's fair. I knew why that happened. If they get rewarded for it, same thing. And what happens is when dog owners are saying, it's okay, it's just your Uncle Timmy, it's like 9 things.
That's like, I don't know all those words.
No, and I tell people, like, this creates it ruffles a lot of feathers when I tell people to stop talking to your dog. There's a caveat to that, like context, like we've talked about. If you have a really good relationship with your dog and you can tell your dog to down or sit or stay or recall under any circumstance, you can read your dog the encyclopedia every night and it doesn't matter. However, if you look at your dog and you say sit and they're like, the hell's that? And then you go, do you want to go for a walk? It's a really nice day. I'm like, you just told your dog 11 things and they don't know anything. So you're continuing to take steps back, over communicating, over touching. I just had a client in recently. She had a German Shepherd that wanted to eat me while she had the leash. As soon as I took the leash, the dog could care less and only was whining to get back to mom. And she was perplexed, the owner. She's like, I don't understand. She just wanted to kill you. I said, your dog is not reactive. Your dog is reactive to you. You are the reason, the cause, but unfortunately also the solution to all this. So your relationship with your dog is what's created all of this. And when you watch her handle the dog, to your point, she's constantly, so her anxiety and her behavior is what's causing the dog to react. She's touching. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Constantly. Be the same thing right now if I was like, hey, like cracked out. You'd be like, you and your nervous system would be on edge probably. Like, I don't feel so safe. Remember this one time I did a lot of work with wolves back in the day.
Oh, wow.
And this goes exactly to what you were just saying. Like, exactly. They did a tour to local colleges across the country. They're from Colorado. And they did a local tour with colleges, and one of the colleges was kind of local to here in New York. So I met them. And there was, like, they call them ambassador wolves. So wolves that were born in captivity, essentially. And they're pretty much like feral, but decently okay wolves to be around humans. Anyway. So we're on stage, sea of students. And I just was asked to handle one of the wolves on stage that I knew because I visited the wolf from Colorado. Anyway, I'm nervous. So I'm doing this.
Oh, gosh.
She comes up, one of the directors, she comes up and she like whispers in my ear. She's like, slow down, relax. And I was like, oh, yeah. So you just said like every like touch and
everything. Like you nailed that when you gave that example, your client there and stuff. I mean, I like to tell people, imagine that there's like an invisible cord tied from you to your dog. It's a constant nervous system communication loop. Like even us right now talking, you know, our nervous systems are reading each other's physiology, whether or not we realize it. Like, and same with dogs. When we're with them, when we are around them in close proximity, they pick up on our physiology. Gosh, they've even done studies and stuff we did in the very beginning. We would have, like, I'd be hooked up to a monitor and I'd have Bree hooked up to her collar that measured like her heart rate and stuff. And I'd walk in the room and I would practice getting kind of heightened to see what would happen to her heart rate, and it would go up. And then I would do deep breathing and then it would come down. And they've done extensive research and they're doing even more now because it's fascinating, but our physiology literally influences theirs. And so, and I know a lot of people can feel guilt from this and be like, oh my gosh, I'm ruining my dog. And it's like, no, actually, there's awareness is the first change, or awareness is the first step to lasting change. If we can be aware of where we're at and start to change things, that can impact our dog immensely. But it's like there's this invisible cord that connects you guys. And I'm sure, like I said, you see that daily. I mean, we are definitely part of the problem there. And that's why, like you said, you see so many dogs at shelters, whatnot. That's why I love No Bad Dogs, because behavior is simply an expression of the nervous system. And when people understand that that behavior is usually the last thing we see, that they underneath that, there's been a communication, a whole, conversation happening physiologically long before a dog lunges or bites someone. it gives different context to dogs and not just labeling them as, "No, it's a bad dog," you know? So,
Yeah.
it's powerful.
My dog Lakota can telepathically, I swear, telepathically
Yep.
know just by how I'm moving what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Like I
Gosh.
almost thought about doing like a test where I would be like,
Yeah.
okay, like I would write down
Hmm.
what I'm gonna do, and she would know what I'm gonna do. Like
You should do that.
it's unbelievable because when
Yeah.
I don't bring her out like a
Yeah.
lot. Um, she's friendly and everything. We just don't. I don't know. We just don't bring her out. But when we do,
Yeah.
people are so fascinated by how engaged she is.
Yeah.
She's a Dutch Shepherd, so
Oh,
she's
wow.
very intense
Okay.
in her eyes. Like she's just like she kind of like reads you and like
She can see.
she's very expressive.
Mhm.
And so, for an example, if I'm downstairs and I'm working and I come upstairs and in my head, I'm like, I'm gonna bring her for a walk. I don't say anything. I don't grab anything because
Yeah.
she doesn't ever have a leash on. So she just knows by the way I'm moving
What
that
you're gonna do.
there's times where I come up and stairs all day long for
Yeah.
food, snacks, coffee, whatever the heck it is,
Mhm.
and she doesn't move.
Huh.
But the one time out of the 20 times a day, because my office is downstairs in my home,
Yeah.
I come up to bring her for a walk. She jumps up and she's like, that's it. Whatever you're doing." So it's I've been thinking about that lately. Like
Yeah.
it's just how I don't know how she reads it.
Yeah.
It blows my mind.
I mean, the thing is like, if you think about it, I mean, gosh, our dogs, like, their world revolves around us. They study every single thing. I mean, they study how we breathe. They study our micro movements. I mean, like you said, it does feel like telepathic. Like they know. They have us so honed in. It's like you said, like they're literally studying us inside and out. And so that's really cool that you brought that up because I feel like that's where dogs can become one of the biggest mirrors in our life for, like I'm sure you had moments where your dogs revealed stuff about yourself or like, and vice versa. And it's like, gosh, wow. Like they are our greatest teachers, I feel like, truly.
If you if you listen.
If you listen, no, exactly. Well, that's the thing. I think that's the problem. I'm sure you'd say this. I think one of the biggest problems in the dog world is we don't know how to listen. Like a lot of us don't know how to stop and slow down and observe our dogs and actually listen to what they're trying to communicate. I'm sure you'd probably say, "Gosh, you see, you see that on the daily." Um,
Yeah. And I think it's once dog owners realize how easy it is, they are like to them it's
yeah,
like profound, right? So
it
for
is.
me, I remember that same session with that shepherd.
Yeah,
I was just teaching the owners like the dog was so that let's say the dog was looking at them
yeah,
and then I was behind the dog.
yeah,
I gave the dog a little bit of leash pressure and then I put my shoulders down and just backed up.
yeah,
And then the dog came right to me and they were like, "How did you do that?" And I was like, they just little things like that I think I would assume your average dog trainer would know, like how to recall the dog with your body. um,
yeah,
but for most dog owners, they don't realize how much what you said is about. They pick up on your body language
yeah.
and everything that you do. Like Lakota's just on my dog. She's on another level.
The level.
I don't know how she does it. It's so fascinating to me. Like I'll do it in different parts of the house too,
Okay.
where she just knows. Like,
Yeah,
and again, there's no trigger. So normally it'd be like the leash or the treat pouch
or
or
some item that comes out or something that
I just have it in my head. I'm gonna go outside, and she just
just picks up on that.
picks up. She gets up. She's like, "It's time," and I'm like, "How did you know that?" Like, out of
Yeah.
I just came upstairs 10 times, and then the 11th time I came upstairs to, how did you know? It could be the way I came up the stairs. Like, I don't know what she picks up on, where she's like, "It's time," and I'm like, "That's wild." Because I don't,
Yeah.
like I said, I don't say anything.
Yeah.
But dog owners, what would be your advice for dog owners on how they can
Mm.
understand them better?
I mean, gosh, I'd say two things. First off,
Get up a little bit on them.
yeah, I'd say first off, two things: slowing down. If we could learn the art of slowing down.
What define that?
Yeah, the art of slowing. I mean, simply,
Sounds like a book.
it does sound like a book. Maybe it needs to be a book. Just creating an unhurried life, essentially taking things a little bit slower. Like, I mean, we live in a hustle culture, right? Everyone's going. We get up in the morning and a lot of us are just rushing. And I'm guilty of that. We pull out our phone, start scrolling, do XYZ. But if we could learn to actually be in the moment and be present, so many of us live in the past or the future, and be in the present, we would be able to see the dog right in front of us and actually observe what's going on in their body. So I tell people to slow down, to actually start listening to their dog's body. But of course, the question is, well, how do I listen to my dog's body? And I would tell people, start being curious. Like, curiosity is one of the best things that we can do. It's non-judgmental, and like for ourselves, like with humans and somatics, one of the biggest things we teach people, instead of like feeling shame or guilt over feelings that we feel in our body, be curious about them. Okay, why does that exist? Why do I feel that? Same with our dogs. Start being curious. Like, okay, why are their ears up like that? Is there something in the environment that did that? Or why is their body rigid right now? Like, looking and just being like almost like a student of your dog, like watching their movements and just becoming more curious. Because once you can understand, the three nervous system states, there's three main states that we exist in throughout the day. And that's what I teach people. If they could understand and know, okay, gosh, they're in an activated state right now, or they're in a shutdown state, or they're calm and regulated, knowing the difference between those three then allows us to apply necessary things that can actually help our dog. So I think it's a component of being able to slow ourselves down first and then just watch and just, yeah, be curious.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that too.
Well, that's
One of the first things that I do in the morning is our dog sleeps in the like in the corner of our room on a big bed, and
yeah.
I in the morning I'll go up, like right when I get out of bed. The first thing I do is usually give her attention, because it's like the only
Yeah.
time in the day
Yeah.
for most people,
Mhm.
right? Like
Yep.
that's the only time of your day where it's not like, I like what you said. You're either living in the future or the past. You're either making decisions about what you're doing in the future, or you're trying to help a decision that you already made.
Yeah,
Like, whatever.
exactly.
Either you're scheduling, or you're thinking about what you're going to eat for dinner, or what the kids
Yeah.
have going on that night, or whatever. You're constantly in the
Yeah.
like the management stage of your life.
Ooh, management stage.
Right? Which I think is normal,
Yeah.
because it's many people. There's not a lot of people in life that just wake up and go, I got nothing to do.
Nothing to do.
That life doesn't exist, I don't think, really, for anybody.
No.
But that's one of the first things I do in the morning, is just give my dog attention, because I know that's the only time that that's gonna happen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's crazy you say that about, the past in the future. And I thought about this the other day. Someone brought it up. Dogs don't live in the past or the future. They live in the present. Like, their sense of time is so vastly different than ours, because we have a much more complex brain that we can go into the past. And some of us literally live there, or some of us live in the future with anxiety. But dogs are literally the most present creatures. Like, they're not on no timeline. They're not, and I think that's wild. They teach us, how to just stop and just be present.
And don't you think it's also breed specific too?
Yes, I would say genetics. There's so much that goes into that. Every dog is different, has different needs. They're wired differently. I think that plays a huge role, versus small dogs, large dogs, working dogs, all that stuff. Definitely.
Yeah, I actually posted it last night on my Instagram story.
Oh, okay.
Where I did a I'm filming a docu-series basically about working dogs.
Oh, cool.
But this is funny, like my editor sent me over like V1, and we're talking, and they're border collies in Montana, and
Oh, I saw this.
Yeah.
Yes.
so it's like you and I talking.
Yeah.
The goats are all basically in between our legs and around us, and the border collie is just
circling.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And it's so funny, like you can see the dog circling us as like we're talking. It's just going around and around.
Going around
and so it's just
yeah.
it's interesting, because I'm sure, like, even with Lakota, my shepherd,
Yeah.
she's very like work oriented.
Mm-hmm.
So So I think people don't realize the difference between a working dog and a pet dog,
Yep.
and that gets a lot of people into trouble.
Yes.
It also, I think, is one of the reasons why there's politics in dog training,
I agree.
because most pet owners who live with a really docile unicorn
Mhm.
dog
Yep.
who doesn't have any behavioral issues,
Yep.
isn't dangerous,
Mhm.
doesn't give them any, they
Yep.
can live with that dog a certain way. They can also train that dog a certain way. But then
100%.
when you get something different, you have,
Mhm.
just like with any animal, really, you're going to have
Yeah.
to use different exercises, tools, and
Yes.
techniques to make things safe and fair for the dog. And so, like, even with Lakota, I always say, like, jokingly, like, Jeffrey Dahmer could have a frisbee and she'd be, his best friend. Like, she doesn't
Yeah.
care.
They don't care.
She doesn't care at all.
Mhm.
But like, there's other dogs who are very sensitive and
Mhm.
they can maybe pick up on different things, and they're not like,
Yeah.
again, Lakota she's so focused on
Yeah.
ball, frisbee.
Yes.
Like,
That's her life.
it's her life.
That's her
Where there's
life.
other dogs that are more oriented towards relationship, or
Yep.
like they're a one-person show
Yeah.
type of thing.
Mhm.
With the semantics of what you're doing
Yeah.
with dogs, what do you think the biggest problem dog owners have right now with
Mm.
what you're doing and what you're seeing?
I would say it probably is tailoring to the needs of the dog in front of them. A lot of people see what I'm doing and they think it's a one size fits all approach. It's like, oh, here's some techniques. Let's just go throw it on the dog and try it. And then they turn around and they're like, well, that didn't work. And a lot of it isn't just one size fits all. Like you said, every single dog is different. They have different ranges of social flexibility. They were bred for different jobs, epigenetics, temperament, all these things. And so, me doing chest circles on a golden retriever could look vastly different than trying to do it, on a German shepherd or, gosh, I don't know. There's so many nuances, and that's why the problem is that people, I don't think, once again, when people get their dogs, and I'm sure you can say this too, a lot of us don't do the research on what dog we're getting, their breed, what they actually require. And so that affects doing some of these practices, because a dog that, tends to be more activated, might need different techniques versus a dog that tends to be more mellowed out. And so being able to understand first and foremost, okay, this is my dog, and knowing their window of tolerance, which that's another word that gets used a lot. Window of tolerance, just a fancy word for essentially the capacity that a dog has, or us as humans, before we tip into overwhelm. So like throughout the day we have a window of tolerance. Some of our window of tolerances are really small, some of ours are larger, depending on how we handle stress. And so that affects too when we use these techniques, knowing, okay, where's the dog at in their day? Where's their window of tolerance? Trigger stacking. I don't know. Is that something? Yeah, that's a big part of this too, is understanding and knowing, okay, have the triggers stacked up in the day for the dog. I tell people to picture their dog kind of like your iPhone battery. It starts out charged, unless you don't charge your phone overnight and you're a psycho. But like, usually it's charged. And as the day goes on, though, you check messages or emails, and then it starts to deplete. Kind of like your dog. Things can happen. They go to the park maybe, or they go on a walk, the battery starts to go down, or someone rings the doorbell. Different things stack up. And so then when someone goes to try these techniques, and let's say their dog's already pushed into overwhelm, they might not work. And so a lot of it is, once again, being curious, observing, and knowing the context of where their dog is at in time and space in that day, and where their nervous system is at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just understanding, and that's important too, because every dog is different, and that's the same thing for training too. Like, like we just said, is
Yeah.
if you see a trainer do something with a particular dog, it may not, like, a lot of people see like the fancy Malinois online, do all the crazy stuff, right?
Oh
Go
gosh,
in between
yeah.
the legs, do all the fancy
Yep.
handling, and then people will be like, "Well, I tried and I bought the course and I did this and I did that." It's like,
Yeah.
you're never
Mm.
gonna turn this Sharpei into a Malinois. Like, it's not gonna happen,
No.
So I think that that's really important for people too. And again,
Yeah.
like that is part of why
Mhm.
why so many dogs are
Yeah.
suffering in many different ways. And I think that that's why also, just in life, again, when the dog training industry too, there's like this unfortunate divide where because people don't understand that there's a huge spectrum of behavior, dogs, training, thresholds. Like there's certain dogs, like I know people that their best dog is a pet owner's nightmare. Like, you know, some of the police guys that want a really aggressive, balls to the wall, will bite anybody dog. Like they actively search for that. And then the dog owner is in tears, spent 3 years and $10,000 trying to get rid of something. It's somebody else's dream.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see the variations, to your point, of these thresholds of work, because I think other things too to be mindful of is the genetics of dogs. It's an interesting thing what you said about the genetics of making sure you know your breed and you know your genetics and you know what you're getting, but there's also a huge risk in genetics too, because I see a lot of people who get dogs who the dog that they get, like a German Shepherd, and they end up not being, like, their ears don't pop up, and you know they got them for a police dog, and they end up being a service dog instead. Like, so there is variance to that too, where you do get a dud, or you get a dog that is not like, you might get like, oh, I got this dog and they're going to be like this. It's like, it's also not guaranteed that either. You could get a really well-bred dog, and let's say they have 7 puppies. 6 puppies are well-bred, they're stable, they're tolerant, they're predictable, and then you could get one puppy that grows up and matures to not be.
Exactly.
And I think that that's important too, is we have to like bring that scope in granularly and just keep looking at genetics will give you a certain range of, well, this dog is, it's going to be big. It's probably going to be protective. It's probably, you know, Corsos are really popular right now, but not every Corso is big, bad, and scary. You know, it doesn't always mean that. So I always like take that with a grain of salt sometimes when people are talking about, well, I have a, like, it is like, there are certain breeds. There's only a certain, like, there's only a couple different breeds in the world that I know what I'm going into. And it's like a Shiba Inu is one of them. I know that when I go into a session with a Shiba, I know what to expect. Border Collie would be another one. And those are the 2 things off the top of, like, top of my head that I would be like, those are going to be pretty consistently bred, behaviorally consistent dogs. But if you tell me you got a German Shepherd, I'm like, that's like you telling me you're eating food. I'm like, what kind?
What kind?
Like, German Shepherds are, the spectrum is so big.
So big.
Because there's the pet, there's the show, there's the working, there's the check, there's the so I think a lot of pet owners kind of get really focused and almost like obsessed with some breeds sometimes when they go out. And it's different if you're looking at mom and dad and you know the breeds and you're seeing the puppies. Like, that's different. That's why service dog training is, they use a particular gene pool. Like, they typically are like, okay, this gene pool of black labs we've been breeding for, I don't know, 30 years or whatever. And we know that this dog is going to take 2 years of training. It's going to be $30,000, and it's going to save somebody's life consistently, like, over and over again. And we know that when they go into a supermarket and a kid runs by and bonks them on the head, they're not going to care. Like, those are genes that you can pretty much bet your money on. But unless you have a breeding program that you've been working on for a long, long time and weeding out any, like, a dog that bites somebody unpredictably, don't ever breed that, whatever, mom, and don't ever do that one again. Like, you always, like, and I think that that's important too for a lot of dog owners to realize, because I work with a lot of shelters. I work with a ton of rescues. I obviously work with a lot of dogs and their owners, and I think, like, buying a purebred dog for a lot of people is like blasphemy. They're like, oh, why would you? And all these, it's like, but there's also like, when you're buying a dog for a particular reason, for a particular thing, you have to be, you know, you might want it for a particular thing when you go to the shelter. But I just, in my life, I just already know, like, it's also a crapshoot.
It is.
You never know.
You don't know. Genetics, I really like how you said that, because I think there's so many things that go into that. Like you said, sometimes You know, like there's nuances in that. And I think that's what people need to be more aware of. And, you know, when you said you work with shelter dogs and all that stuff, you don't know unless you're doing a DNA test
Right.
and stuff like that, which even then, you know, you don't know sometimes how accurate. But I think that, yeah, that's a really good point that you made there with that. If people kind of, you know, knew more about that. And yeah, there's just, I feel like there's a lot of trends right now with breeds. I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
you see that. And it's like, gosh, dogs are not trends. They,
Yeah.
it's sad that that's kind of what it's,
Yeah, and that's why I don't love when any outlet, no matter if they know what they're talking about or they're full of shit, they put out a thing of like world's smartest dogs.
yeah, yeah.
And it's usually like Border Collie, Malinois,
Uh-huh.
Poodle, like whatever.
Yes.
And it's, I'm like, oh.
Like,
Or a movie comes out
yeah. Oh gosh.
with a dog and it's like
And that's the sought after breed. Yeah.
all the train, because the problem is all the trainer, well, not the problem. The problem is a lot of pet owners don't realize, and maybe some of them do and don't care,
Yeah.
that unfortunately, I would say more than 50% of people who are selling dogs are only doing it for money.
Yep.
They're not doing it for temperament or looks or conformation or to be cancer and disease free. They're not looking at, you know, any of that. They're just looking at, Channing Tatum just put a movie with the Malinois. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go get as many Malinois as we can. Breed the crap out of them.
Gosh, that one's, I know that.
Put them on Facebook and collect our checks. And then again, these poor families who bought this Malinois on, you know, in a Walmart parking lot for $500 because they saw the movie and the kids saw the movie and they're like, well, wouldn't it be cool if our dog could do all that stuff on the big screen? And then, you know, 6 months later, the dog is biting people and, you know, they have to potentially put the dog down. And it's this tragedy where they're like, you know, that rips their whole family's hearts out and it's like, man, so that sucks to see. When you're working, so right now, are you working with clients? How does your system work? Or are you just putting out educational content for people to try at home and doing courses?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. So, right now, like in the beginning, I started doing a lot of shelter work. I'd go into shelters and rescues and I would do hands-on work, which that was very, very interesting and got a lot of really good research from that. But moving forward, we've trended more towards releasing educational courses and whatnot. Not that I don't foresee myself going back into shelters and rescues, but there is a certain line of risk though too, because you know dogs, as you know, are unpredictable, and you
There's
got
the beagle.
there's the beagle exactly. Couldn't stay quiet.
It's funny though. I did a podcast with, who was it, Amy Taylor? She's like, I heard a German Shepherd barking, and
They can know, your listeners are gonna know.
I knew. I was like, that's a German Shepherd. And so for my listeners, this would be a fun game for us to start playing. That's a beagle barking.
It's a beagle.
You can very distinctly tell. Anyway, I'm
Oh my
sorry.
gosh, no, you're fine. I'm glad you pointed that out.
With the shelter work, can you just explain to me what you did? Like, how did you enter a shelter with, because from what I'm understanding, you're basically trying to calm the nervous system down of a dog.
Yeah, I mean, kind of. You know, once again, I kind of went in there trying to actually assess a lot of their dogs to kind of see what their window of tolerance was. And so, how I'd do that is I'd first get the background on the dog, of course, make sure I did not work with any dogs that had bite history unless I had a bite suit, which those are just crazy expensive, you know? So, I'm not, maybe one day, but I would essentially, based upon the dog's history, I would go in a room that there was really nothing else in there except just me. And I would sit, I wouldn't face the door. I would just kind of be in a neutral position. The dog would come in. I would just let the dog sniff me, do whatever. I would simply observe the dog for
Were you in the kennel or were you in
in a separate room.
Okay.
Yeah. The dog would come out of the kennel. Someone would handle the dog, drop him off in the room. And then I'd be sitting there and I just watch the dog. I'd observe their behavior. Some dogs would come right up to me and want touch. They would instantly be like, hey, you know, I'm loving life here. And then some dogs were incredibly touch averted, like very shut down. Like they would just go in a corner and sit down. So what I would do is I'd assess to see where their nervous system was at. You know, are they shut down? Are they activated? Or are they in a pretty regulated, connected state?
How do you do that?
Yeah. So by body language, essentially, and watching to see how they're moving through, you know, time and space. So for example, for a dog that's like shut down, I had a dog that came in, gosh, I can't remember. It was a mixed breed. And this dog approached me and immediately I didn't even stick a hand out. It just hackles went up, kind of backed away, And I knew, I'm like, okay, the dog went over and sat in a corner, did not look at me, and just had this, they were just very tense and tight. And I could tell there was a mixture of some activation and also just shut down as well. And so by observing like their body language and just how they moved through the room, they circled, came up to me, and then went back in a corner, would make no eye contact, I knew this is a dog right now that does not want to be touched. And a lot of this, it probably sounds so basic, but a lot of us don't know, like, oh my gosh, some people would try to go up and pet that dog. They'd be like, oh, well, I can pet that dog. And so I'd observe these dogs like that. And for dogs that were activated, typically a dog would come in the room and they'd just be bouncing off the walls. For those dogs, I'd be sitting in a chair higher up, and I would, sometimes I'd have like a gate, or I'd have my knee up to make sure they couldn't try to mount or anything like that. And I would immediately be able to observe just by their breath rate, watching how fast they're like, they're breathing, and just like eye contact, ears, all those little micro signals. I could tell this dog's definitely activated. And so for those dogs, then I would give them space, and I would sit there, and eventually they'd come up to me, and a lot of them would let me touch them. And we actually had some really, really beautiful moments where I was able to get a lot of those dogs to like just sit there. Some of them would even lay down, and it was cool to be able to show people from the start, here's a dog that comes in bouncing off the walls. And then when you offer them space and you're calm yourself, you're practicing deep breathing sitting there, that a dog can calm down and approach you. I think it proved a lot of what we were trying to show people, is that relationship, that's important. Dogs are picking up on us and just observing to know like where they're at, where their nervous system's at, because a lot of those shelter dogs are on one end of the spectrum. I don't think I've met a perfectly calm shelter dog yet, which is sad, but it makes sense. They're in a very small confined space, lots of stimuli. It's a brutal environment for a nervous system. I mean, gosh, if you put yourself in a jail cell for like 10 hours, you'd probably be barking too. Like it's, so yeah, the shelter world, it's a whole different ballgame. It's a different environment. Environment affects the nervous system, just like with humans, I even tell people with plants, gosh, if your plant's not growing, is it in the right environment? Does it have enough sun? Does it have enough water? Move it around, and that's why you see shelter dogs that come out of those environments and they're a completely different dog. Of course, they need help, they need work, and decompression is important, but environment is a really big factor there.
And that's why it's hard for those dogs when they meet a potential new adopter.
Yes.
Because they don't have the time.
Yeah.
I mean, time is probably the biggest thing, and they don't have the skills or experience.
Yeah.
They see a dog online on like the shelter's website. Like, oh, it's so cute. And then they go and they shut themselves in the corner of the dog, and the owners are like trying to go up and touch the dog, and the dog's like, oh shit.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm curious what your thoughts are. I feel like, man, we need to get a permit to drive a vehicle. I feel like people need to take a test to take a dog home from a shelter. What are your...
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think it's tough because there's a huge spectrum. So there's a lot of dogs who would be better off in a shelter than in the loving home that they're in.
True.
Which is, gonna surprise some people, but there's many dogs who are shelter dogs, and they're like, they love that structure.
Yeah.
Because they know their schedule, they know their routine. But every shelter's different. Like I've worked in some really nice shelters that are like
high end.
Yeah, high end, like very funded, and like have staff and have trainers and have conference rooms and have like actual dog walkers coming in, and they have cafes, and it's nuts.
Wow, that's bougie. Yeah. That's nice.
There's one in Kansas City in particular that I'm thinking of. That's why
You're like,
it's really nice. They have it's just a good I mean, I don't the whole operation, but it's just nice. They
nice
have
that, all those resources.
It's called KC Pet Project. It's nice.
Okay.
I went in there and worked. And anyway, but I think it just depends, because when you have, it's really tough.
Yeah.
And
I know.
I think people who are going in to get a rescue dog or a shelter dog, I don't really like the word rescue dog. I think that's like just an emotion that humans make on it. But a dog that's in a shelter, or a homeless dog or whatever, I think that there's such a spectrum of quality of life questioning, right? Where the dog is in a shelter,
Yeah.
they're getting like 3 hots and a cot, if you will. There's a teacher I had in high school that would always say that, like, if you guys don't do your homework, you're gonna end up in jail and get 3 hots and a cot. It may be better than sleeping home, or whatever. I always said 3 hots and a cot.
It's a good phrase.
So it's like there's some dogs who like that routine, and then they get put into an environment where, like, the worst thing you could ever do to a dog, and this goes against completely what humans emotionally do, is they get a dog that doesn't have a home, so they feel really bad. And what they do is they bring them into their home, zero structure, zero boundaries, zero discipline, do what you want, when you want, have it your way, beds, treats, toys, stuffies, pull me down the road, don't listen to me, jump on who you want because we feel bad.
Yep.
And that is by far the worst cases I've ever worked with.
Yep.
The most aggressive, most reactive, the closest to being euthanized dogs have been the dogs who people feel bad for.
Yeah.
And they just allow them to do anything and everything that they want. And the dog starts to really spiral.
Wow.
So they go into this environment where they just had all this structure.
Yeah.
And it's discretionary on who says if the dog was happy or not. It's like in your head, you think this dog is going to be happier in your home because you're stressed out in the shelter. But this dog, this is the only thing this dog's known. So when they get into the home and there's not the chaos and they're literally like free, and then the dog starts to jump on people, get aggressive, get protective, goes back to, again, like the same type of people who, and this kind of creates the perfect storm of the worst behaved, most dangerous dog because of owners and humans, is the same type of people. And it's ignorance is kind of like, it's just, they don't know. They're not obviously doing it on purpose. And that's why I try to put out many videos on this. But the perfect storm typically happens like that. They get a dog that they feel bad for, and then they, again, give them lay of the land.
Free reign.
The dog starts to lose their mind. They don't have structure. They don't have boundaries. They don't have discipline. They don't have manners. They don't have leadership. Literally, like, everything you could do bad for a dog. And then what ends up happening is because they feel bad, they do the unthinkable, which is constantly talk to them, constantly touch them. I love you. Are you better here? And the dog's like, oh God, oh God.
Yeah.
And so those two things are like peanut butter and jelly for most of those people. And they're just loving, caring dog owners who are trying to do the right thing. But what they don't realize is that, and then the dog starts to get reactive. The dog starts having resource guarding issues. The dog starts to become protective. The dog barks and reacts to everybody when you're out for a walk, and they go, I don't understand. It's like, well, here's the thing. It's really simple. The dog came into your life not reactive. 3 months later, your dog's super reactive. What's the issue? You. You are the variable. So it's hard for us to say, like, getting a dog out of a shelter and bringing them into a home. Sometimes it's actually the dog's happier in the shelter. And that would, like, blow people's minds.
No, actually, oh gosh, I love everything you just said, because we did have a carousel out there a while back talking about how people think that they're doing the best thing by pulling dogs out of these shelters. Like, they're giving them the best life. And not saying that there aren't some dogs that have been given incredible lives, that have structure and they've been trained well. But that's, like you said, that dog in that shelter, that was their entire world. For them, it's the most traumatic thing to transition out of that into a whole new environment. It's like taking them from their entire life and being like, okay, well, here's all this stuff. And when you said it's the perfect storm, dogs thrive on predictability. They thrive on routines. And when you give dogs free reign like that, and there's no decompression, and they have a massive house and a yard, or you take them to the dog park right after, or stuff like that, you're flooding their nervous system. You're literally tipping it into overwhelm. And, and I feel it's hard because people think they have the best intentions. They're like, and it comes back to us, as if we had more education on what it's actually doing to the canine nervous system. That's why we have like a 72-hour decompression guide where we tell people, give the dog one room of the house. Don't let him go outside of that one room. Make sure you have a consistent schedule. Don't even talk to the dog, things like that really change the game. And that's why I think so many dogs get returned to the shelter, or, they end up then with you and other trainers, because we don't understand, and we put a lot of human projections onto them. And that's definitely something I get kind of heated about too, because there's such a shelter crisis right now, and people want to know, how do we help? And it's like, it's an us. A lot of it's an us problem.
Hmm.
And, you know, I'm guilty of that. Like when we rescued our first dog years ago, I did the same thing. I'm like, oh, I'm going to give you the best life, gave him free reign. And then we ended up with dealing with reactivity years down the road. And that's something now that we've had to work through, and we've made a lot of progress. But I completely understand. Like, I've been there. I've been that person that was like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to give him the best life. And, you know, that's why, like, it comes back to humans. We thrive on routines too and predictability. And, you know, I'm sure, like, if you don't have structure in your day, sometimes you just feel like you're just floating around. And
Amen to that. I don't do well with vacations.
oh, vacations are the worst. Honestly, I'm glad you said that. People are like, that was the best time of my life. I'm like, no, get me back to my
Yep.
my schedule.
I have a really, and I think it's just, personalities. Different
Yeah.
people have different,
Kind of like dogs.
yeah,
No.
yeah. Like like my wife is perfectly happy going to the beach for a week and unplugging and just,
Yeah.
I'm jealous of that. Like, I'm
Yeah.
like, I wish
Wish you could do that.
that I could just put my work aside and
Yeah.
just not think of anything. I was like,
Mm.
but I have this like,
Yeah.
maybe unhealthy, like just constant bombard. It's
Yeah.
so I've learned how to manage it over the years. I'm like, okay, this is my game plan. Like I have a schedule for vacation where I'm like, all right, I'm gonna work
Yep.
at these times. I'm gonna
Yep.
work out at these times, and like I have to have that structure. But
Yep.
and most people do too. I mean,
Mhm.
like I said, excuse me, God bless the people who can go out there and just be like, you know what?
Mhm.
I'm gonna unplug and just look into the ocean for a week and just enjoy life and order,
Yeah.
room service. Or I'm like,
Oh
man,
man.
I'm so jealous of that.
Yeah.
Like I can't,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of people can't.
Yeah.
There's definitely some people who can just kick their feet back and just like.
Yeah. Mm.
That's why I have a hard time reading books.
Yep. Uh-huh.
So I like read.
Yep.
I'll try to sit down and read a book, and then 10 minutes later, I'm like, especially if it's like a motivating. I was just reading. There's a one of my clients, Dave Portnoy, who built Barstool Sports.
Oh yeah.
He
I'm very familiar with Barstool.
Yeah, he wrote a book, Cancel Me If You Can, and
Okay.
it's basically about how he built this basically billion-dollar company.
Yeah, the Empire.
Yeah, and so for me, Dave's a pretty polarizing guy, so regardless of what you think of him, but he
Yeah.
built this entire like really special media company, and so he basically wrote a book on how he built it brick by
Oh
brick.
wow.
So I'm reading it. I started it in Nantucket because he lives in Nantucket too, and I've worked with him a lot in Nantucket, and so
Yeah.
I got it in Nantucket, and I started reading it, and like I couldn't sit still. Like every 4 pages, I got up,
Had to
I
get
went to go
up.
do something. I
Had to go do.
did something. Like
Yeah.
so that's really hard for me. Is I'm a very like I would say I'm pretty impatient. Like I'm like
Mhm.
I like
Yeah.
I just want to like let's do it right now.
Yeah.
Do you want like
Let's
you
just
know what I
get
mean?
done.
And that sometimes that's good.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's bad.
No.
I think that
Yeah.
you have somebody in like my wife is
She's just kicking it over there.
she balances me out. She's like, I'm very like, oh, that opportunity's gone, move on. And she's like, nope,
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
it's okay. Like they have a life. Maybe they didn't
Yeah.
email you back, they didn't text it, whatever. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
so anyway,
No.
I digress. So yeah, with the
Yeah.
with the shelter dogs and people who get these dogs, I think it's it is really sad because it's the dogs who go into the shelters a lot of times is because of humans.
Yep.
The dogs who get returned to the shelter a lot of times is because of humans.
Yep.
And a lot of people want to do good. They like would
Yeah.
do anything to keep these dogs out of the shelters, but they don't realize that doing good is sacrificing their selfish behavior.
Yeah.
So they do it, right? Where I'm like, just shut up.
You're
Stop
like,
talking. Stop touching. Stop. Like,
Yep.
but that's like the anthropomorphism thing where
Mhm.
we can't in our heads
Yeah.
like stop touching, stop talking. Like I've
Yeah.
told my clients so many times.
Yeah.
Well, so they'll come in with this, like the general format for me, no matter if I'm in the Netherlands, Portugal, or here in New York,
Yeah.
dog comes in reactive. First thing I do is I look at their relationship.
Yep.
So I don't really care how reactive it is, how many dogs they've killed, how many people they've bitten. I don't care about any of that. I just want to let me see you interact with your dog. So they'll walk them around, and again, they're like word vomiting, like, oh, let's go over here. Come on, let's go. We're going to go this way. And what I've realized over the years is that's actually usually the person's anxiety or the person's personality.
Yep.
So they have that like very, they're doing it for them.
Yep.
and the dog unfortunately suffers from it.
Yeah.
But the kind of like the tragedy there is nobody, unless you're in the dog space, you don't see that.
Exactly.
They just see somebody talking to their dog, and I'm like,
Yeah.
you're like you said, you're flooding and flooding and flooding. And so think about if you talk to your dog all day like most people do.
Mm-hmm.
By the third day of your dog being with you, they've already tuned you out completely.
Exactly.
So then when you go in to try to teach them something or stop them from doing something, they're like,
Yeah.
you've never meant one word you've ever said, and I've never understood it. Why now would
Yeah.
I start looking at you for leadership, guidance, engagement? I tell people all the time, it's like walking in the street anywhere and somebody comes up and starts speaking a different language. You're immediately like, nope,
Yeah. You're going to tune that out.
I don't know what, bye.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Can't.
Right? But for some reason,
Yeah.
people do that with their dogs, and that's really where and I think the discretionary, like the thing is a lot of people be like, my dog knows,
Mm-hmm.
do you want to go to the park? I'm like, yes, your dog definitely has associated
That word.
certain like patterns of walk, treat,
Yep.
you know, grandma's house or whatever.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, so when I do that assessment, the first thing I do is I look at the relationship, because I don't care about anything else. Because if the training is so secondary to relationship, because if you don't have a good relationship, it's really not going to work. It's like, you know, living with somebody you hate.
Yeah, it's not a foundation.
Yeah, it's like, it's not, and no matter how hard you try,
it's not good.
And it's not that your dog hates you. It's living with somebody who doesn't speak your language. It's difficult to communicate.
Yeah.
So that's what I see a lot is like this whole, I'm like, you are the cause and the problem. You're the cause and the problem. And that's why I created No Bad Dogs in the first place, is because, and a lot of people were like, Tom's never worked with this type of dog. I'm like, it's not literally there are no bad dogs, because I'm sure there's dogs out there that were born just absolute killers.
Yep.
And they, you know, probably should be behavioral euthanized for their own good. But for the most part, any dog out there that's misbehaving or put in a shelter or reacting like a complete lunatic or pulling somebody down the road is because of the owner.
Yeah. No, I completely, all of that stuff. I'm just like, yeah, that's what I try to tell people on a daily basis. And, you know, this is where somatics really comes in hand with training. It's not something that replaces training. I think it actually enhances it. I tell people it's kind of like pre-workout a little bit. The part of a dog's brain, it's called the neurocortex. It's responsible for learning. That part of the dog's brain will literally go offline if it starts to tip into overwhelm. So when people try to train a dog that's past threshold, it's like handing someone a math test if their house is on fire. It's like, here, answer all these questions. And they're like, oh, my house is on fire. I can't answer this. And that's what we're doing with a lot of dogs. And I see, you know, and I see like you're very in tune with the dogs that you have, and you watch that. And I've seen, you know, in the training world, some people just like, and I think there's a healthy level. Dogs need to be pushed through challenges. They need to develop those skills. But I also see some people that push dogs to the point like where they're way past threshold. And I'm sure you've seen that too. And when people understand that literally learning is less accessible when a dog's tipped into overwhelm versus when they start out a training session more calm and regulated, there's such a big difference there. And that's, I think, another piece of things that we try to tell people as well. And I think it really goes hand in hand with what you're doing. So I'm sure, have you ever had a dog that you're in a session with and you can tell, gosh, they're about ready to tip into like, you know, overwhelm, and like if you like pull back the reins, do you see a change in like how they
Yeah, a lot of, and that's what a lot of people don't understand is I typically enter the room with the dog in that state.
Yep, exactly.
So
that's perfect.
There's a lot of things that I have to do are very non-traditional.
Yeah.
We're not developing a dog on how to sit or down or to chase food around a room. We're taking a dog that it's life or death. They're tipping into crazy mode, right? Where they're hyperventilating, their respiratory's like this. And of course kicks off their nervous system, and they're panting and their tongue's hanging out, and their gums are bright red, right? And so I have to walk into situations that are typically like already
escalated.
They're already there.
Yeah, they're
and
there.
then now a new person comes in, and it just, so there's a lot of you know, and I get lunged at and barked at, and you know, tried to get bit, and so when I end up in those situations, I do the same thing. I typically will pull the dog away from the owner because they are causing it.
Yep.
Then, very rarely does a dog continue to. I can remember a very specific dog that I worked with in Knoxville, Tennessee, that I got the dog away from the owner and it didn't care. So I was like, well, I shouldn't say that. It did care, but it didn't care. But anyway,
Yeah.
very rarely when I pull a dog away from the owner do they continue to try to hurt me.
Yeah.
Usually it's like, oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
It's literally like you can see
Yeah,
that. You
the
can see their
relief.
breath. They start shaking.
Yep, the
They,
shakes.
they do the
Mhm.
they do the stress shake
Yep.
and they just start relaxing.
Yeah.
And to me it's very interesting because the owner's sitting there going, whoa, and you're like, you did this. And
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's where like
Yeah.
a lot of dog trainers, when I do seminars, like 80% of my audience are dog trainers because they want to learn or know or
Yeah.
maybe just get a different take on how I break down. How do you tell a dog owner they're ruining their relationship with their dog
In the nicest way.
in a way that it's going to be
It'll land.
it's going to be empowering, it's going to be exciting,
Yeah.
and that they're going to understand. And that's what like I
Yeah.
think separates maybe a sustainable dog trainer versus somebody who does like quick fixes.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning of my career I did a lot of quick fixes. I mean, I've been doing it now for over a decade, and so in the beginning I did a lot of let me have the dog, let me have the dog. Now
Yep.
when I train and work with dogs, I try not to touch the dog at all. I try to Pinocchio the owner through the entire situation, unless it's
Yeah.
an elderly or handicapped or out of shape person who
Yeah.
physically
Just can't do it.
can't do it. And then it becomes like basically a waste of time because
Yeah.
they can't do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, to your point, when I go into those situations, a lot of times I remove the dog from the trigger, which is
Yep.
the owner.
Yep.
The dog starts to de-escalate naturally because the thing that is getting them so fired up is now away from them.
Out of sight.
So they're kind of like, whew, like it's like
Yeah.
if you work at like an ER or something, as soon as you get into the parking lot, your nervous system, your body, your breath, your mind just starts to just decompress naturally. You take that deep breath. So that's what a lot of times dogs will do is they remove themselves from the trigger.
Yep.
And then what I like to do is I show people very early on, if applicable and necessary, what their dog is capable of.
Yeah.
And that immediately tells and shows dog owners like, oh my gosh, my dog can do this.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing. That's what that's what we're looking
Yeah.
for. And I go, look, if I can do this in less than 30 minutes, you can do this in less than 30 seconds.
Yeah.
The only difference and the only thing standing between you and this is you. So I said, you have to work on everything. And I said, the problem is everything that you've been doing with your dog it's involuntary.
Yeah.
It's a habit.
Yeah.
So and I tell people not to, and this is again, kind of like my way of training and teaching is I tell people all the time, I'm like, you're going to keep making this mistake throughout the rest of the weekend.
Yep.
And that's okay. But I am going to keep telling you about it so your body can recognize what I'm saying. And a lot of time it's just like yanking up on the leash, correcting and asking at the same time. Like a lot of dog owners will walk around, same thing to what you're focusing on in your careers. A lot of dog owners will, unfortunately, have the leash way up here.
Yep. And it's just like.
So the dog's like
Yep.
getting choked out basically, or if not, very like, and it's like somebody basically, getting you in a rear naked choke and you're trying to talk to somebody else. It's like, I can't really focus, and also I'm in distress. So that's like one of the first things I tell people. I go, relax. I've literally, and I've done this a couple different times with some really worked up people. I will have them walk around an invisible dog, which to some people is embarrassing, but to some other people it's really it's profound and it breaks them through because what happens is I go, okay, so I've done this in seminars. I say, put your dog away, come back out. And I want you to walk around the room with the leash without your dog. And they're like, what? And I'm like, just trust me. Just do this, right? So again, they go, and they go, and they start looking down.
And they're like,
yes. And they start, and the fake dog's all the way up here. I go, what are you doing? Yeah. I go, this is what your dog's feeling. I say, your leash is like connecting into an amplifier. Every single chord you play is amplified to your dog when that's your training. That is your direct line to your dog. So it's like all these little habits. I go, put your arm down. Yep. Look forward. Yep. Take a deep breath. Relax. Your shoulder. Yeah, just relax. Like I've told people, I go, give me the dog. I look at them and I go, take a deep breath, and they go. I'm like, relax, and I have them basically like de-escalate themselves because they can't. their regulation system is so, and I get it because a lot of dog owners I work with have a sense of PTSD as well, because they actually have been out for walks and their dog has attacked somebody,
Yeah, they've had
or
all those things.
or they've been attacked,
Yeah.
and so they walk around like, like
Just
this,
bracing for the next.
bracing. So a lot of the stuff that I do, and I've had to learn as a human being myself, in order for me to be a better teacher, I have to also be a better student, and I have to also learn how to do this with people
Yeah.
like myself. So that's why,
Yeah.
exercise is really important, diet is really important.
Yeah.
Um,
All those things.
all those things. And so to your question 25 minutes ago about what do I do with those dogs who are already tipping over, a lot of times I pull them away,
Mhm.
and if I give the dog back, I immediately start working on controlling
Yeah.
what the owner's doing wrong. I'm like, put your arm down,
Yeah.
look straight.
Yep.
And then I start like nipping, like, stop talking.
Yep.
Nope, nope, nope. And I start cutting them off
Just look
every
at
time.
everything.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
it's like, with any type of teacher, if you're, learning how to dance or figure skate or bowl or play golf or whatever, like, especially with golf, those little tiny nuances in your shoulders and your positioning and your
Yeah.
arms, everything makes the ball go
Yeah.
one way or the other. So that's something I really work on with dog owners because I want it to
Yeah.
be sustainable.
Yeah.
Any client that I work with, I would want them to know enough information to go out to then train somebody else's dog,
Mm.
not
Yeah.
just their own. Because
Yeah.
it's not sustainable if
It's
you're
not.
like, there's certain dogs that I do have to take again, but very rarely do and I tell, like, especially when I seminar, I just tell people, like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna try not to touch any of these dogs and
Yeah.
get the same results as if I did, because that way we all know the owners are, so it's empowering to them
Yeah.
because they're like, wow, I did this and look at
Yeah.
the difference, and they get all excited, and
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
put that confidence in them.
That changes
And I think that
things.
that's really important for dog owners to learn how to do. And that's why I tell people, like, if your behavior of your dog is predicated off of your relationship, you giving your dog to another person to train is not going to help you.
No.
We like, our board and train program is thousands of dollars,
Mhm.
like many other people. And I've had that. When we consult with people, we talk people out of giving us that money because we're like,
Yeah.
this board and train, like, your specific reactivity with your dog is only because you
Yeah.
have an awful relationship with your dog. So the minute we bring your dog back to this door and you drive home to wherever you're from, your dog's not going to react for us once.
It's gonna revert.
It's not going to react once. We're not going to see anything. So you're going to pay us all this money
Mhm.
to work with your dog when the thing that you want us to help you with isn't going to exist
Yeah.
because of you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. No, I know that.
it kind of like it,
Mhm.
some people have to brace themselves a little bit because
Yeah.
they don't like to
No.
hear that sometimes, but you
Yeah.
got to do it in a way that,
Yeah.
I think that that's like
Mhm.
something dog trainers have a hard time with, because usually, not usually, but what I hear a lot from dog trainers, I'm sure, as you are working with all these different people in the dog space,
Yeah.
you probably will see this or hear this from people where they go, I don't have the patience for that.
Yeah.
They're like,
No.
they just don't listen. I don't
Yeah.
understand. Like, they short circuit.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who are really good dog trainers are really good with dogs, but they're not so great with people.
Yeah.
And so I've kind of like been proud of myself for being able to be to hopefully have both of those
Address both
skills.
ends.
Yeah, like skills
Uh-huh.
with people.
Yeah.
Don't talk down at them. Try to build them up,
That's so important.
and really
Yeah.
try to coach them, because I've had so many friends like pull me aside and say, like, dude, I don't know how you dealt with that lady or something.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah. You're
that's
like,
my job, bro. I'm like, and I tell my staff all the time too. I go, because they get frustrated with certain people, as
yeah.
you would. Doesn't matter if you're a
Yeah.
waitress, bartender, or
People
flight
are
attendant.
messy. People
Yeah, it's like, it's part of the land.
happening.
I tell them all the time. I go, guys, these people are reaching out because they need help,
Yeah.
and it's our jobs
Yeah.
to embrace all their insecurities and their issues, and a lot of times their egos,
Yeah.
and help them navigate out of the bad situation they're in. And
Yeah.
without them, we wouldn't be able to do what we love. And so that's something that I have a conversation with my staff all the time.
Yeah. I think that's so important because at the end of the day, it comes back to us. Like you said, we play such a pivotal role in our dog's relationship, and, being able to treat people with compassion and kindness and instill
Mm.
that confidence that goes so much farther than talking down on someone and just telling them all the things they're constantly doing wrong. I mean, I know that some ways there's some people that do it that way, but like I think there's a much better way to do it. And when you can instill confidence in people and show them that, hey, you can handle your dog and you can do hard things with your dog and come out the other side better, it changes how people, like you said, it's more sustainable. It changes the future of that relationship versus just a quick fix. And I think, I mean, let's be real. A lot of us want quick fixes.
Mm.
Gosh, I'm guilty of that sometimes too. And I think that's where the lens of what we do, nervous system work isn't a band-aid. It's not an overnight, okay, hey, you do this one exercise, you're going to wake up and there's going to be like rainbows and a unicorn at your front door. It's like, no, if you put in the consistent habitual time of learning your nervous system and how to make it feel safe, same with your dogs, over time you'll see lasting changes. And I know in the training world, if you practice commands, if you practice cues, all these things, it accumulates over time. And I think that's where there's also that commonality is like you got to put the time in. Patience is
Mm-hmm.
key and consistency. I mean, consistency at the end of the day is so, so vital for both of, I think, the worlds that we work in.
Yeah. What are things that people can do at home, learning from all the things that you've done right now with their dogs to make their relationship better?
Mm. Yeah, there's a handful of things. Like I said, our social media pages, we have a lot of information that we give out on there. There's a lot of reels you can watch. We have our courses that are foundational, but truthfully speaking, one of the biggest things that people can do, and it's probably, like I said, a very similar crossover to the training world, is to start watching your dog. Just stop, like you said, stop talking and start watching and start observing and just practicing presence. I like to tell people, like, take out a 5 to 10 minute window a day. Go find a corner of your house. Sit with your dog. Don't demand anything from him. Just sit with him. Just focus on your breathing. Just sit there, orient to your environment. Look around and be like, okay, here's 3 objects I can see right now. Here's 3 things I can hear. Here's 3 things I can touch. The nervous system, like that, widens the capacity for the moment and it helps people feel safe. Like orienting is one of the processes in somatic work that we do with people. Dogs are genius at doing this. Dogs are always oriented. You look on a walk, they're sniffing stuff.
Mhm.
They're always looking around. They're doing what we struggle to do because it's hard for us to stop and to slow down. And like I said, I'm guilty of that when you talked about reading a book and stuff, like every 4 pages having to get up. Orienting is probably one of the best processes we can learn to do for ourselves and for our dogs. So go sit in a space and orient to it. Listen to the sounds. Look around. Look at the colors, the textures, and then things that you can touch. Maybe you can feel like your socks on your leg. Maybe you can feel the texture of the table. These things sound crazy, but when you actually do that, your brain takes in more information that concludes, I am safe. And then the body can stop bracing.
Mm.
And that's the key at the end of the day. If we can do that, we can become a calmer version of ourselves, which can help our dog sitting next to us receive more of those physiological cues that, oh, okay, her breath just slowed down. Oh, her shoulder softened because they don't know that we're orienting, but they pick up on these cues. So then it teaches them that, oh, the environment's safe. I'm getting that off of her body. I can tell physiologically that she has softened. Okay, I can do the same thing. I did an example a while back with Bree. Like I said, she was a crackhead back in the day.
Mhm.
Girl, she'd run in, and you know how golden retrievers are.
Yeah.
Um, and what I did is I literally laid down on the ground, and I would not recommend this. If you don't know the dog, if it's not your dog, if it's a crazy dog, don't do this. But I laid down on the ground and I just curled up in a ball. And Bree came in, and of course she was spastic and she was sniffing around and jumping off the walls for about a good minute. Then she came over in the video. She looks at me, sniffs me, and then right next to me just drops because my body sent a signal. It was a safety anchor, like a literal physiological symbol of, okay, my human is showing that there's no threats in the environment. Because when my human's down, that's like the most vulnerable position that we can be in, laying down. Our dogs know that when we lay down, rest is occurring. And it proved that point of how we hold ourselves really is so vital for the relationship it impacts our dog and how they move through our world as well. We can be one of the biggest anchors, or we can also sink their ship. And it's like we decide which one every day are we going to do. And so, yeah, that
Do you have any habits for people throughout the day? Like if you were to do like the best
mhm,
like day in a life for you and your dog, for like the normal person who
yeah,
probably goes to work or something, what would you tell people to start doing more of, or what would
yeah,
be like your ideal schedule for a client of yours?
yeah. So you said someone that goes to work typically?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or not, or just works from home, but somebody who can't just, go on walks all day and
Yeah.
hang out.
Well, first thing I'd always tell anyone, the nervous system instantly gets recharged through sunlight, water, and the earth. So get outside with your dog if you can for the first 5 minutes of your day, before you pick up your phone. And this is something I've been trying to practice recently, and it's hard. It's not easy. We instinctively want to reach and start, scrolling TikTok before it's 8 a.m. or who knows what. But get outside with your dog, just sit there or maybe go for a little walk, look at the sun. I mean, maybe don't stare directly into it, but let the sun hit you and your dog. Walk barefoot if you can. Gosh, if you have access to like water anywhere, I mean, there's all these things that help the body naturally recharge. And our dogs thrive being in nature. I mean, they were made to be in nature hundreds of years ago. That's where they were. We weren't under fluorescent lighting. We weren't, in front of screens. And now that's a lot of dogs' lives, that are at home and not like throwing guilt on any people that, don't have the ability to get their dogs out. But it's not natural. It's not what we were made to do. Our bodies were made to be out in nature. We were made to do those things. And that's one of the biggest things that can help essentially the nervous system start off on a good foot. So I tell people, get outside if you can, and then slow intentionally down like the movements of your day. Like it's crazy, but if you stop and think about it, how do you brush your teeth? Some people are over there and they're just like literally brushing their teeth so fast. Slow down how you brush your teeth. If you're washing your dishes, which gosh, I hate washing my dishes. Slow down. Like just like if you intentionally, and it's painful, slow down these movements in your day, you're literally creating a whole different storyline for your body that I don't have to rush, that I can slow down. And then that's where safety, once again, you communicate safety to your body, to your nervous system, which connects to your dog that's right there. And so, I tell people get outside, slow down your movements, and then honestly, like I said, practice windows of doing nothing with your dog. And I think that's one of the most powerful things. Our dogs, we are dopamine addicted people, and our dogs, I think, can be dopamine addicted too. And so if we can teach our dogs to sit there with us and not have to be doing something, I think that's really powerful too, because that, once again, I think that's one of the hardest things for me. And it sounds like, something too that you might, have worked through is sitting and not doing something literally is one of the most revealing things about where our nervous system's at, because it shows if we're go, go, go. And so that, those are probably some of my biggest things more than any techniques. I mean, techniques are great and we teach somatic techniques, but if you don't understand the underlying principles and that lens of, hey, the body needs safety, that's what changes the game. That's what allows the body to stop bracing. That's really where the script begins to flip there.
It sounds to me like it's like like therapeutic and meditation.
Yeah.
'Cause that's
And
what they teach with meditation, right? Is to
yeah.
basically ground yourself,
Mm-hmm.
feel the touches and
Yeah. A lot of that is like I said, that word orienting, a lot of it is, like you said, some of it is meditation based. A lot of it is just simply, like you said, grounding, like just being present in your environment. Like it would blow your mind if we sat here for a solid 10 minutes and said nothing. Most of the time, our brain would probably be in the past or in the future and not actually picking up on where we're at. And so that's why I tell people it really kind of shows you where your nervous system's at in that point in time. It's kind of like, gosh, what's the word? It's a really good baseline to see where you're at during the day. But I feel like if you start your day off, on the right foot, regulated, then I feel like when things happen, when triggers start stacking,
Mhm.
it becomes a lot more manageable. I tell people like your dog starts off their day with a backpack too, you know, um, and you put rocks in it. Like rocks are like stress and triggers. And what happens over time is like the backpack gets so full and eventually the rocks don't have any place to go and they fall out. And that's when we see outbursts or things that happen. And if we can start the day off with taking some of the rocks out of the backpack, so to speak, then we set ourselves up and our dogs up for more success throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of it is intentionality. A lot of it is, it sounds, I tell people it sounds so cliche and it sounds so easy. Oh, let's just go do that. But when you start to do it, you realize that it's actually not that easy. It takes a lot of really honestly having to confront some of the hardest parts of ourselves and also looking at our dog and realizing, do we want to be the best version for them and putting in that work and that consistency.
Mm-hmm. I think that's why in today's society or in today's world, there's a lot of like decline in mental health,
Yeah.
decline in or increase in anxiety, depression,
Yeah.
etc. Because
Yeah.
we have these things here, these
Yes.
phones
Gosh.
that
Mm-hmm.
because what it does is any time in your life, whether it's procrastination or if your brain is trying to deal with something, you can just pick this up and distract yourself.
100%.
And you don't learn how to deal with that, think about that, process that.
Yeah.
And I've tried to figure that out myself. Like I pretty much have deleted all social media off my phone,
Yeah. Wow.
and I've um gave other people responsibilities to help with it, and or I even have a second phone,
Well, that's smart.
and just so I know, like I'm intentional, like I'm gonna sit down and do 3 stories and
Yeah. Yep.
check my
So,
DMs maybe or something, and just make sure that I'm not reaching for my phone
yep.
when because what I work on and I'm big on people watching. It's like
Oh, listen, people watching is top tier.
it's the best. So when I'm like in an airport
Mm-hmm.
or really anywhere public,
Yeah.
I'm just not judging. I'm just watching, like
Mm-hmm.
curious about how humans are moving through life,
Yeah.
what I'm noticing and change.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people, when they go up and they wait in line, boom, phone immediately. Like if they're at the
Yeah.
coffee shop or they're
Yeah.
waiting in line to board a
Yep.
plane, like nobody can just sit there and just look around them and see, like nobody knows who's around them,
Yeah.
what's around them,
Yeah.
what's happening around them.
Yeah.
We've kind of become this, and of course, like everyone is guilty of this, unless you're in your 80s and
Or you're Amish.
yeah, or you're Amish, yeah. But yeah, but it's just interesting, like
Yeah.
it's so true. Like the more that you are with yourself and you learn how to be in your own head
Mm-hmm.
and process things, and
Yeah.
that's why the what is it? I forget what it's called, but they do I think it's called like light therapy maybe, where they
Oh,
blindfold people for like, or no, they don't blindfold people. I'm sorry.
neurofeedback?
No, they put them into a cave for like
Oh, gosh.
light.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I don't know the
It's
terminology. Yeah.
it's light,
Uh-huh.
not deficiency, but it's like
Sensitization or no?
they put them in a cave basically. They do it I think they do it in Oregon.
Wow.
My buddy Forrest was telling me about it. But anyway, you basically are forced to have real conversations with yourself about who you are.
Yeah, there's no ability to be connected to anything else.
No, and the society is a lot of times these days, especially with
Mhm.
the iPads, and kids are not learning how to be kids. They're learning how to basically distract themselves from what's going on around
Yeah.
them. And
Yeah.
I even noticed with my 4-year-old specifically,
Yeah.
he gets this. There's certain times, like
Yeah, like screen time.
he may get a half an hour of screen time a week maybe, and it's typically like if we're in pinches, like if we're in
Mhm.
between, like if we have specific meetings or
Yep. I
we're
feel that.
like if we're traveling, so my point is
Yeah.
there's this trance that he gets into where he's
No.
different.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of
Yep.
like a movie where you're like, oh, you've been bitten by the zombie and you're about to
Yeah.
turn.
Yeah, yep.
You can
Uh-huh.
just see the difference where he's irritable, he's
Yep.
frustrated, he's
Yeah.
reactive.
Exactly.
And so it's just fascinating. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not to say whether any of this is good or bad, because I think
Mm-hmm.
overall technology puts us into the green.
Yep.
We get to do
Exactly.
stuff like this, but
100%.
we have to have enough discipline to understand that just because it's there doesn't mean we should always reach for it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why a lot of people like Huberman and a bunch of other people will talk a lot about making sure you don't look at your phone or anything.
Yeah.
Like, I used to do that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would look at my phone in bed. And there's like my wife can do it, but she follows like,
Yeah.
like girls who are like I don't know. It's just different. Like everybody is different. Like it doesn't affect her the
Yeah.
way it
It
would affect
affects.
me,
Mhm.
right? Where if I look at something like,
Yeah.
whether it's a comment or it's a thing, like it, so it's just different depending on who you are. And I
Yeah.
think like a lot of working with meditation, like I've done a lot of, not a lot, but I've
Mhm.
done a considerable amount of understanding mental health,
Yep.
what works for me, what doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
But meditation is one of those things where you ground yourself.
Yeah.
You feel your feet on the ground.
Mhm.
You work on your breathing. And
Mhm.
I do a lot of every meditation I've ever done has been a guided,
Yeah. Yep.
like Headspace or one of the
Yep.
apps. And it
Yeah.
tells you like you're going to try to think, your brain
Yeah.
is going to start to freak out and go, no, 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 we need to start thinking about this, that.
Yep.
And it just tells you, let it go, let it
Just
go,
let
let it
yeah,
go.
just be
It hits you with that dopamine every now and then. It's like, okay, now let it go wherever it wants. Now
yeah.
focus on your legs, your
Yep.
feet, your arms, your head,
Sensations of the yeah.
touching everything, feeling everything, smelling things. And that's so good because after you feel refreshed and charged and you feel,
Yeah.
like Yoda a little
A
bit.
little more alive, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do.
Earthing is another thing too,
Yep.
like grounding, just
Yeah.
putting your bare feet in soil and grass and
Yeah.
water. It's so like,
Yeah.
it really just is because so many people are so disconnected with Mother Nature or
Yeah.
nature or
Yep.
whatever you want to call it.
Yep, for
And I
sure.
think it's the same thing. Like when I went out, I was talking about that docu-series.
Mhm.
I, d- I have a considerable amount of things that I have to do to keep me stable
Yep.
mentally,
Yep, I get that.
right? Like
Get
I have
that.
to exercise. I do the cold plunge.
Yep. Diet,
I
all that
like
stuff.
my diet. Like I've drinking maybe like 4 sips out of this coffee, just
I'm
like,
drinking like 100. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But I'm just saying caffeine affects me considerably. Like I don't drink
Yeah.
alcohol anymore. Like,
Yeah.
so I've done all of these different things to dial it in.
Mhm.
But uh, being out in Montana shooting that,
I bet that was
it was cathartic. I didn't
yeah.
I didn't need anything, right?
Yeah.
I didn't need the cold plunge because the cold plunge helps with your dopamine, and I didn't need
Yeah.
to run. I didn't feel it. I was so,
Wow. That's probably in tune with
yeah,
nature and
right. Like riding a horse, watching dogs, like
yeah.
filming and narrating and just being like, I was so happy. I was like glowing. Same thing when I
Wow.
used to go out and work with the wolves. Like I was just glowing because it
Yeah.
was just so.
You're
But
just
then and I think it's just, but that's like my vacation. Like that
yeah,
to
that's your
me, like the
ideal.
most perfect vacation ever would be to go out west or go to somewhere
Yeah.
and film dogs doing, like I'm the
Yeah.
happiest there. It's when I'm like
Yeah. Yeah. You just
so buzzing.
yeah. Well, it makes you feel alive. I mean, gosh, and like those open spaces too, like open
Mm.
spaces for the brain and the nervous system. Like there's just so much there. And I think once again, like you said, we're so plugged in, and I think there's a healthy boundary line. Like any tool can be helpful, any tool can be harmful. It's how you use it. And yeah, I think like going back to what you said at the end of the day, sitting with yourself, it reveals how wired we are to dopamine, and like it just, I think that's one of the greatest skills that we probably can cultivate is because there are going to come times in life where we have to sit with ourselves. And whether or not we realize it, eventually we'll get forced to that point. Like for me, when I was super sick, I came to a point of I either have to address this or I'm going to end up in bed for the rest of my life.
Mm.
And we all come to a T in life. There's things that force us to make those decisions. And so with our dogs too, like you said, we have a choice at the end of the day. It's just which choice do we actually make? And yeah.
When you're doing I call it what you're talking about with you're just sitting with your dog. I call that soaking.
Soaking. Yeah.
I tell that to dog
Yeah.
owners.
Mhm.
People ask me all the time, like, what's that mean? Like, I just
Really
made it up one day.
soaking.
I just tell people, just be.
Yeah. Just be.
Just hold the leash and just don't say anything. Don't look. Just literally just stand there with your dog and just be. Because I was like, you probably have never done it.
Oof.
So I just say,
Yeah.
just relax. Just
Yeah.
literally be here. And a lot of times dogs, because humans are so humans
Mhm.
are
Yeah.
so reactive
Yeah.
to triggers in our environment, which therefore the dog, like if they see another dog, they go, whoop, right? Or
Mhm.
they say something or they do something, whatever.
Yeah.
So I've been telling people too so when you're doing this exercise, when people are at home listening, watching,
Yeah.
when they're doing this type of exercise to just be with their dog and just kind of enjoy that moment
Yeah.
Be the only time of the day. Maybe you take 10 minutes for yourself to have you and your dog enjoy each other.
Yeah.
Are 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 they on a leash, or are you? How do you recommend doing that?
I mean, I think it could go both ways. If you prefer to do it outside, you could have them on a long line, you could have them on a leash depending where you're at, or if you're in a fenced-in yard, take them off the leash, you know, or you can do it inside. I think it kinda depends on the person's preference, where do they feel most, at home, where do they feel safest? A lot of people I get messages from people, they do it out in nature a lot.
Mm,
That's just the place where people feel, like you said, most alive, most able to disconnect, because here's the thing is, I tell people, if you can, try to get out of the environment you're typically in, because and I'm sure you found this too. If you're in your house and you're trying to sit there still, you're gonna think of a million and one things to do in your
mhm,
house. You're gonna look at your wall, you're gonna be like, "Oh gosh,
mhm,
I need to do this. I need to, like, fix that painting's crooked," or, we'll find all these things. But when we're out in nature, there's really nothing to fix out there. We don't have to, it's a place for our brain to really just settle. Um, so if I had a preference and tell people, it'd be that. And, the other thing, to your point, someone said this a long time ago, it always stuck with me. We're not human doings, we're human beings. We were meant to just be. And I think that's powerful, because
mhm.
if we can take that with us, it changes. So much of what we do in life is tied to how much we can do. But actually, I think the greatest gift we can show our dogs is how to just be. Um, yeah, which is something, it's a work in progress for
Uh-huh.
all of us, constant growth.
Yeah, I love that. Do you think that the I don't want to say economy, but the world that we live in now, where we're so, like you said, we're kind of like in this hustle,
Mhm.
especially like anybody in their 20s, 30s, and maybe even early 40s, there's like this hustle culture of,
Yep.
especially in social media, building brands and personal brands and building,
Yeah.
having the ability to build your own company
Yeah.
online through hard work is
Yeah.
great. But do you feel like there's more need for nervous system work,
Oh, yeah.
decompression, all
Mhm.
of the things?
Oh, 100%. I mean, my whole brand is online. It is. And starting out, I knew when I did this that I'm going to have to be really intentional, because I have a family, I have dogs, we're on the road now. I've had to put into practice more than ever now what I preach, because it's so vital. Building your brand, you know, like I said, we don't have a large team yet. We're just still building, but so a lot of the work still falls on a lot of my shoulders. And, as you know, social media is a bear cat. There's a lot to manage there.
Bearcat?
A bear cat.
I never
You
heard
never
that.
heard of bear cat? Oh, it's a Midwest term. You've never heard of that?
Uh-uh.
Maybe no. That's got to be a Midwest thing right
I love
there.
that.
Yeah.
You start saying
You
that.
gonna start saying that? Yeah. Well, you should throw it around, see what happens. No. Well, social media it's rough, and there's a lot of times where, like you said, I even have a device called a brick that I scan it, and it will limit access to all my apps on my phone. So I will go and I will literally brick myself for like 4 hours from social media. Then I'll get back on and I'll do my posts and whatnot.
Hmm.
But there's a lot of intentionality there of taking breaks, going outside, being with my dogs. I think more than ever, we need that. And my dream one day would be that, I can outsource that. I wouldn't have to do all that stuff. The most present that we can be, I feel like the better. I've watched how that changes my own health, and just, I've seen it with other people firsthand. So I think it's great. I love that people are building businesses, empires and brands. I love that. I just think there's a whole other side to it where people need to be consciously in check at the end of the day. Okay, where am I at? Where's my capacity? And being aware of that, and knowing maybe I need to actually lay off here for a couple of days, and knowing that it's not horrible. Like, um rest is actually something that we should be giving ourselves more of. I mean, dogs don't ask for our permission to go lay on the couch. Gosh, my dogs, they lay around a lot of the day, and they're not feeling guilty about it. They just naturally go do what their body needs to do. And I think we inhibit ourselves from doing a lot of the things that we often need to do. Um,
Do you have any advice for anybody listening that is struggling with what you're talking about, struggling with a discipline of making sure that you can separate yourself from your phone or separate yourself from social media? Because
yeah.
I think maybe before we hit record, I'm not sure, but we were talking about how social media is a bear cat and kind of
Yeah.
it's it could be brutal where like, people who don't even know you are talking about you, or people who
Yeah.
they become divisive of like,
Hmm.
they kind of try to control you,
Yeah.
like, do you have any advice for people in your journey right now and where you're at
Yeah.
that has helped you?
Mm. I mean, like I said, probably one of the most helpful things I've done is have accountability with it. Tell someone, if you're trying to do something on social media, build a business empire, whatever, have someone there that you can say, "Hey, I'm only going to be on my phone for the next hour. After that, look at me. If I'm go take my phone if I'm still on that phone." And that can some people don't have access to that. So I get that. I'd say the next best thing that I have done is get a brick. I mean, like I said, it's this, I think it's $50 little magnet device, literally blocks any apps that you select on your phone, and you have to go scan it. So I'll take this brick, I'll go throw it in a closet because I won't be able to find it. And then I know, oh gosh, I'm not getting on social media until I find that thing. And I don't really have the drive or energy to go like sort through my clothes to find this device. But having, like I said, having things in place, because I think we have the best intentions, right? I think iPhone has this automatic thing where it's like, you can limit your screen time, but you can press override. You know how many times I've been like, oh, we're just going to override that. It doesn't work. Our brains were so addicted. So if we can hide, if there's ways that we can actually take away that desire and that urge to want to go do that, that's one of the first best steps I would tell people is look into some of those avenues. And it's hard. It's one of those things. It feels like you're, detoxing from hard drugs when stop using your phone first thing in the morning. But, yeah, I think the other point I would say too at the end of the day is this is, you know, you can't let other people's perspectives rule your life. Everyone's going to have a perspective or a view of you when you're on social media. I mean, you know that firsthand. You have thousands of people that are watching you, and you can't let, like you said, you can't let those people get into your head. You have to just be present where you're at, and your phone is, like I said, that can take you into the past or the future real quick, and just being in your environment. So practicing, like what I said in the beginning, being present, orienting, all those things really, I think they all cohesively tie together. It's not like a one size fits all. If you do this and that, it's going to be easier. But I think, like you said, exercise, movement, food, all these things that we are given, if we can help the body function together, all these pieces really play a big role.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. Do you want to tell people where they can find you?
Yeah, sure. Now you guys can find me on social media. Our handle is Waldrup Somatic Method. And then we have our courses online at waldrupsomaticmethod.com. We have a foundational Dog Somatics 101 course. It walks you through a lot of things that we've talked about today. It goes a little bit deeper, gives you some hands-on techniques. And then we have an actual certification program if you want to get certified and work with us and actually being a practitioner. We've had people that go into shelters and rescues and do this work, and then dropping in just a couple weeks. Really excited. It's our both ends of the leash course. So we're going to teach people, hey, here's how you can regulate and here's how your dog can regulate, but you guys can do it together. And so that's dropping soon. And then we do have a promo code, no bad dogs.
Cool.
So if anyone puts that in at the checkout, you will get a discount.
Cool.
But yeah, that's how you guys can find us.
And I'll put that in the show notes if anybody's listening and watching and
Yeah.
we're on the go right now. I'll put all that in the show notes. Thanks, Rose, for coming on.
Yeah,
This
thank
was great.
you. It was great.
I really appreciate it. Bye, everybody.